Present. Next thing you have is adoption of the agenda. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Judge. It has occurred to me at the past few meetings that we have heard from citizen comment after they thought we had made up our minds for the most part. And I think on one occasion after we'd voted. And at the Association of Counties, we heard that most counties are moving citizen comment to where between items 4 and 5 on our agenda. And we have so many people here tonight that perhaps want to talk. I would move that we move, I think it's item 17, up between 4 and 5.
Second.
I have a motion to move public comments up between number 4 and number 5. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on that? Yes, J.P. Harbison.
Judge Edwards, I think this is a good idea, but I think maybe we should, not all items on the agenda will have discussion. I think we should have discussion before the items that people are interested in. For instance, maybe the money for the animal shelter, that we do our 30-minute approval at that there instead of, at the end of the meeting. I think it would be more appropriate to do that before each item instead of just at the first of the agenda. That's just an idea. Thank you.
Yes, J.P. Madison.
I think what J.P. Harbison's talking about is going to be required anyway. I think we're required to have comment before we vote on any ordinance, and so this would be the general comment period that typically would be held to the end, moved up, and then there would still be, per our ordinances, comments before the vote on each item. I think maybe sometimes we skip that and forget it. So I think we're all talking about the same thing. There's just, we want to provide it earlier. So I think that sort of just was trying to share that to help J.P.
Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I hesitate to correct a colleague. However, at the Association of Counties meeting, they said that having the public comment at the beginning of the agenda would satisfy all of the legal requirements to vote, to have public comment before a vote. It would be putting all the public comment together. And I certainly respect what J.B. Harbison is saying because it has some merit, but it puts us in the position then of having to second guess what people might have comments about. And that might be a fairly involved process. I think because sometimes appropriation ordinances have substance to them, but yet don't require any public comment, then this would allow for that if we just did it all in the beginning. And, I mean, it has created some ill will to wait until the end, is my opinion. And I'm just trying to save people from sitting through things they don't want to sit through and waiting till the very end. I see Mike Emery on the front row, who spoke at the very end of the meeting the last time after we'd voted with some very pertinent comments that might have been better stated before we had voted.
Yes, please come. Steve.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I understood the motion is to put general public comment, which is item 17, and move it from item 17 essentially to item 5 and bump everything else down a number. You are not, at this time at least, as far as I know, suspending public comment on ordinances that you, at least that wasn't the form of the motion as I understood it. So you will still be, unless there is a motion to suspend public comment on those and suspend the rules, you'll still be affording the public not only general comment by the substance of this motion, but also item by item comment if they are interested in a particular agenda item. At least that was my understanding of the motion that was made. And that's well within the court's right to do it that way.
Yes.
Let me reply that that is, in fact, what the motion was, But my understanding from what Mr. Rainwater said at the Association of Counties was that by doing that, we would satisfy all requirements for public comment. But if we need more legal research on that, perhaps our attorneys should call the Association of Counties attorneys to be certain, and we could do a hybrid this meeting that would take the end of the meeting comments to the beginning.
Yes, J.P. Harbison.
I don't have any problem with the general comment. I'm just saying if they make general comments and if they say it once, then when we have the item that they may be interested in, then they come back and they repeat the same concerns that they had in the general. That's the only thing that I really have concern with. But, you know, that's up to the court to decide that. Thank you.
J.P. Usher.
Thank you. One of the considerations that I would like to throw out here is that many times during the debate, a lot of their questions are answered. And so we would have an opportunity for them to because many times when they come here, they don't know all the facts. And that's nothing against anybody, but we've done the research and we know what the rules are and things like that. And I think that if we have our debate first and then they comment, then at least everything's on the table. And that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Judge, I might suggest that the grand issue here is perhaps bigger than tonight and should maybe be referred to the Ordinance Review Committee once that's formed. We sort of deal with it temporarily tonight and let it be a bigger issue for later.
J.P. Pond?
I don't really have any disagreement with J.P. Madison's request. All I'm concerned is that anyone in the room that was interested in expressing their opinion, I would appreciate hearing their opinion before we have the vote. I don't necessarily want to say that I've already got my mind up before I hear comments from people here that want to speak. Thank you.
J.P. Madison.
Madam Judge, perhaps because this is a little more complicated than my simple explanation from the Association of Counties would indicate, I'm willing to withdraw the motion, but I do think that before item 6 is heard, we should have some public comment unless it violates some rule, which we didn't have it before.
Judge, may I
Can you
speak to
just
this?
do
Yes,
that as
please.
a matter of...
You, even though it's an appropriation ordinance, you could move to suspend the rules and allow for public comment on that individual item.
Would you say that one more time?
Yes, you can move to suspend the rules and allow for individual comment on that item. In other words, and the court's done that in the past with appropriation ordinances. In general, they are not necessarily that controversial as this one is, but it's perfectly legitimate for you on that item and that item alone to say, I move to suspend the rules to allow for public comment, have a second, have a vote on that motion, and then proceed to public comment.
Is that in Robert's rules, or where does that...
It's a simple motion, and it's simply suspending the rules. I don't know if it's specifically provided for in Robert's rules, but it would be well within.
Okay. Well, I think it's important that we do that tonight. So therefore, I'll withdraw the motion until the appropriate committee can study it.
J.P. Lundstrom.
Since that motion is withdrawn, I would like to make a motion to move item number 12 between 5 and 6, because Renee has another meeting at one of the county cities, I believe, tonight.
Can I ask a question here? I think item 7 and 12, is that correct, J.P. Lundstrom?
Well,
Look at-
item 12 is the only one I was concerned about. Somebody else,
Okay.
Mr. Cochran.
Item 7 concerns Renee as well, Judge.
Item
Oh, does
7.
it?
Would
Okay,
you like to
7
add
and
that?
7 and 12
Okay.
then. Yes, thank you.
We have a motion to move item 7 and number 12. We have to have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We will move that. J.P. Cochran. Yes. And will that be in the same order that is set up in the agenda? Okay. Have a motion to add 16.1. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, folks, very much. Okay, now we need to have a motion to vote on the entire agenda. Do I have a motion? I have a second. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Agenda has been approved. The next thing we have on the agenda, approval of the minutes. You have minutes for June the 16th, the regular meeting, and July the 19th, special meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions?
Madam Judge?
Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you. If it's all right, I do have some corrections. May I?
Yes, speak to those young ladies over there, please. and
Okay.
they'll- will.
If we could do July 9th first. Are you ready? On item 296.6, line 25, there appears to be a word missing. Remember that this is a deliberative nothing, and then these folks respect you. I think perhaps it's a deliberative process. Then on item 304.1, line 9,
Hold on just a minute. Let's go back to that one. We're not seeing what you're saying on 296.6.
296.6, it's actually on the next page, the next to the last line. It says that this is a deliberative and these folks respect you. And it doesn't say it's a deliberative what? I assumed it was process or something.
Okay. Got it.
304.1, line 9 says that there has been no mass excites, and I don't think anybody was probably going to be excited. I think it probably should be exits. And then 326.3, line 8, his brother-in-law, who one of the pastors, there's a missing is there. And then on the June 18th minutes, oh, I thought we were recording this. 326.3, line 8. Oh, the June 18th meeting. And let me just say that reading and editing these minutes has taken me more than 2.5 hours. And ironically, the June 18th meeting is when we dealt with our desire for shorter, more concise minutes. So something went awry there. The first one is 264. I'm not sure this thing is working like it's supposed to. 264.10, line 3. This is they will continue to service in 2016, and I believe it's supposed to be they will continue to serve. .265.7, line 3. There is an as that shouldn't be there. As 270.3, line 1. After regional hospice program, there needs to be a which provides. 271.5, line 4. The it doesn't seem to refer to anything. 273.4, line 1. The R should be omitted. I think that's right. .277.1, line 3. have missed them. No, it's 276.1. Lines 1, 2, and 3. It makes no sense when you read it. Stating that he is sure that they can and something that they can look into. He know that one of the things that such a right-of-way. I mean, there's just a lot missing there. There's something very badly wrong. I think I did both of those there. And 277.1, line 3, reads whether when it should be rather. Asked whether, oh, that's all right. Rather, that is part of the contract. 278.2, line 4 is Mr. Gales, not Mr. Gale. 280.1, line 10. The inappropriate seems odd there to me. I'm not sure what was really intended. Change in inappropriate reserves. I didn't know we had any inappropriate reserves. 281.1, line 10, it says ordinance on through readings tonight. I assume that's 3 readings. 282.5, line 3, there is a gap. There's just a gap that doesn't seem to need to be there. 284.2, line 1. Let me see. People who were really offended by the way they were approached cutting the budgets. I assume that means approached. 285.1, line 6, the wrong course is there. It should be COARSE. 287.5, line 1, it says imitated, and I think it means initiated. 290, line 1, makes no sense at all. 290.2, line 1, there's something missing. And again, in 290.2, line 7, there's something missing where it just makes no sense at all. And I really feel like these minutes should come back corrected to us before we adopt them, since the attorney has stressed to us that these are a legal record of what transpired at our meetings when there's these gaps that make no sense. But I can't spend 2.5 hours every month reading through minutes that go on and on and on and on, especially when there's this many corrections in some of them. So unless I can do minutes in less than 30 minutes, I'm not going to read them, and I'm not going to vote on something that I haven't read and say it's approved, because I think that would, in a sense, be falsifying a record. And I apologize for taking this much time, but our minutes, if we're going to have them, need to be accurate and need to state what was going on. That's all I have.
Do I have any other changes to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The next thing that we're going to have on the agenda is going to be 16.1. Who is carrying that?
Rick Lockton.
Rick, would you take that, please?
Okay. Thank you, Judge. This resolution is to authorize Nathan Crouch to solemnize a wedding between Ian Chandler and Jenna Jackson. Attorney Zagat, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution authorizing Nathan Crouch to solemnize the marriage of Ian Chandler and Jenna Jackson on September 8, 2015 in Washington County, Arkansas. Whereas, pursuant to Arkansas Code Annotated 9-11-213, the Quorum Court has the authority to appoint a person to solemnize a marriage, and whereas a request for such has been made as set out above, now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas. Article 1. Nathan Crouch is authorized to solemnize the marriage of Ian Chandler and Jenna Jackson on September 8, 2015 in Washington County, Arkansas.
Thank you, Attorney Zagat. Are the parties here?
Excuse me, Madam Judge, we remembered that was just added to the agenda. Perhaps we need to suspend the rules and move it up.
We did.
I think it was
No,
just
you said-
added to the agenda.
It was.
It didn't
Judge,
add
you-
it, but he may have meant to.
I'm sorry, Judge, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Justice Madison's right. You asked, I remember distinctly you asking Justice Cochran if it was going to stay as item 16. So I do think, now that I've read it, maybe we ought to suspend the rules. I would suggest that.
Okay.
In a second.
I have a spin and place it on the agenda. So do we need to go back and now?
I'll need to read it again,
Okay,
but
would
you
you-
need to vote first.
Okay. But let's, Carla, would you call the roll on this? Now, this is to suspend the rules. This is not the actual resolution.
Joe Patterson,
This is just to suspend the rules and place this on the, to place it.
On,
Butch Pond. Yes. Bill Ussery. Yes. Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
Okay, now we've suspended the rules and placed it on there, so now we're back to the business at hand. Mr. Cochran?
Okay, thank you, Judge. Yes, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Nathan Crouch, and I will be the officiant for the wedding. Unfortunately, they are not able to attend tonight. This wedding will take place whenever Ian comes home on furlough from the Navy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I
now
appreciate you
we-
doing that for them. I move to pass 16.1.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We probably need to read it again.
Do we have to read it
not?
again?
and,
Attorney Sagan?
yes.
Okay.
May I?
Yes, please.
Justice Cochran, a resolution authorizing Nathan Crouch to solemnize the marriage of Ian Chandler and Jenna Jackson on September 8th, 2015 in Washington County, Arkansas. Whereas, pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 9-11-213, the Quorum Court has the authority to appoint a person to solemnize a marriage, and whereas a request for such has been made as set out above, now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas. Article 1, Nathan Crouch is authorized to solemnize the marriage of Ian Chandler and Jenna Jackson on September 8, 2015 in Washington County, Arkansas.
Thank you, Attorney Zega. I move to pass 16.1.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comment? Okay, let's call roll. Carly?
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery. Yes. Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
This resolution has been approved. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you. The next thing we have moved up is 7.1. Yes,
I'm going to quit talking after this, but if you'd please allow me to clarify, the motion to approve the minutes, I didn't hear that say as corrected. Did we approve what was mailed out? Or did we approve? I didn't want them approved without seeing them corrected myself, but that's why I voted no. But what did we vote on?
you voted on the minutes, standing with the corrections that you made.
Was that the motion?
Okay,
Do we need to back up?
who made them?
You made the motion.
Okay, I make the motion that the minutes be approved as corrected.
Second.
I have a motion.
Can I move to table the minutes until the next meeting when we can just all have, because there were a few of those sections where
Didn't make any
it didn't make sense, so we don't have any idea what we're approving as corrected. That's what I was abstaining about, so
That's why I voted no.
I moved to table until the next meeting when we can see them as corrected.
Second.
Rick Cochran?
Yes. Judge, question, may I direct a question to Attorney Zega?
Yes, please.
Since we've already had a motion and we've voted on the second and voted on it, I think it's a dead issue. I don't know what the right Robert's rules to say is,
Well,
but I don't think we can reverse this at this point.
You did. The answer is that you did vote on it. You voted in the affirmative with one no and one abstention. At least that's what I heard. This would essentially be a motion to reconsider, although, well, I didn't hear Justice Harbison say as corrected, those two
No,
words.
but I intended as corrected, but I did not say as corrected. I'll have to admit I did not. I just said move approval of the minutes, but I meant as corrected.
Okay, so before you now, in order of precedence, is a motion to table, and the question is whether it's in order or not because you've already voted on the substantive question.
Right.
And it's my opinion that the motion is out of order because you have voted on the substantive question as a motion to table. However, you could move to reconsider the previous motion. That would be in order, and then go back and either consider Justice Eva Madison's motion to table or accept Justice Ann Harbison's corrected motion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Zagat.
Who has to make the motion to reconsider?
Well, Judge, I think the motion, my opinion, the motion to table is out of order because it's already been, the main motion has been voted on and approved.
Okay. Major Madison.
I understood that J.P. Harbison did effectively make a reconsideration motion when she said I did intend my motion, and she moved and seconded to do it as amended, or as corrected, excuse me, which was effectively a motion to reconsider, which I then moved to table. So that's where I thought it was proper.
Okay, and I did not hear the motion, the words reconsider.
I didn't say reconsider. I said I intend. When I made the motion, I just said I moved to approve the minutes. I intended to say as corrected. I did not put the words in as corrected. I assumed, since we had gone through all of this, that everyone understood as corrected. But I stand corrected in that I didn't say corrected.
So advised me, Steve. I don't even know.
Judges, it's still my opinion that the motion to table is out of order because you voted on the main motion. Justice Harbison did not move to reconsider her previous motion. Now, that's my advice to the chair, is to rule that the motion's out of order.
Motion's out of order, and we'll move forward on the next issue.
Excuse me, just 1 minute, please. Anybody who reads those minutes from that July 18th minute is going to be bewildered by what was meant at certain points. I can't make a motion to reconsider because I voted against it. Isn't that correct, Mr. Zaga?
That's right.
It has to be somebody who voted for it.
That's correct.
So effectively, we have approved some really botched minutes. We can't undo a motion that was made simply because the sponsor meant something different. So these minutes are going to be out there for Washington County minutes for that meeting. I just want to be sure you know that.
Okay. So we're going to move forward on to 7.1. Now we're going to need to 7.1 has been moved up by J.P. Lundstrom. And so we'll have to take one at a time, but you have moved before. So J.P. Lundstrom, are you going to? Okay.
I have 7.1, Judge. May
Yes.
I proceed?
Yes.
Okay, 7.1 is a recognizing additional revenue in a state grants revenue item. Mr. Zaga, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance recognizing additional revenues of $2,500 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating $2,500 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the Juvenile Court Family Communications Class Grant Budget for 2015. Article 1, there is hereby recognized additional revenue of $2,500 in the State Grants Revenue line item of the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2015. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $2,500 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the following line items in the Juvenile Court Family Communications Class Grant Budget for 2015. Juvenile Court Family Communications Class Grant, General Supplies $100, Food $2,400 for a total appropriation of $2,500.
Thank you, Attorney Zega. I move to pass 7.1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ready for roll call on that? We don't have comment.
Well, you have to,
Public comment.
Do we,
it's not a public comment, Judge.
no, do we have discussion by court? Would you call the roll, Carly?
Joe Patterson. Yes. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
This resolution has been adopted. 12.1. J.P. Cochran.
No, that one's mine, Judge.
I want to get these right.
We're not impressing very many people tonight, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Anyway, we're doing the best we can. 12.1 is not an ordinance, it's a resolution adopting the pre-hazard mitigation plan for Washington County, Arkansas, which has to do with the redoing of our flood plan maps. And we went over this at some length in a meeting the other night, and it was moved on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. So I'd ask Mr. Zega to read the resolution, please.
A resolution adopting the pre-hazard mitigation plan for Washington County, Arkansas. Whereas certain areas of Washington County are subject to periodic flooding and other natural and man-caused hazards with the potential to cause damage to people's properties within the area, and whereas Washington County desires to prepare and mitigate for such circumstances, and whereas under the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, in accordance with Federal 44 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 201.6, the United States Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, required that local jurisdictions have in place a FEMA-approved hazard mitigation action plan as a condition of receipt of certain future federal mitigation funding, and whereas to assist cities and the county in meeting this requirement, Washington County, with the assistance of Arkansas, that should say tech, not technical, Arkansas Tech University has initiated development of a countywide multi-jurisdiction pre-hazard mitigation plan for the county and all jurisdictions in the county, specifically the cities and school districts. Now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas. Article 1, Washington County hereby adopts the pre-hazard mitigation plan in its entirety. Article 2, Washington County appoints the Emergency Management Director to assure that the pre-hazard mitigation plan will be reviewed at least annually and that any needed adjustment to the pre-hazard mitigation plan will be developed and presented to the Quorum Court for consideration. Article 3, Washington County hereby agrees to take such other official action as may be reasonably necessary to carry out the objectives of the pre-hazard mitigation plan.
I would move that we pass 12.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Patterson. Yes. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
This resolution is adopted. We move forward now, and we're going to go back to 6.1.
Thank you, Judge. This ordinance is an ordinance to fund the animal shelter in the amount of $20,000 by appropriating money from the Circuit Clerk Commission Fee Fund. Attorney Zega, would you please read the ordinance? This is on its second reading.
An ordinance reducing the circuit clerk's budget in the general fund by $20,000, appropriating the amount of $20,000 from the general fund to the animal shelter budget, and appropriating the amount of $20,000 from the Circuit Clerk Commission Fee Fund to the circuit clerk's budget in said fund for 2015. Article 1, the following line items are hereby reduced in the circuit clerk's budget of the general fund in the total amount of $20,000 for 2015. Postage, $8,000. Public records, $12,000, for a total reduction of $20,000. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $20,000 from the general fund to the following line items of the animal shelter budget for 2015. General supplies, $9,000. Janitorial supplies, $2,000. Medicine and drugs, $9,000, for a total appropriation of $20,000. Article 3, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $20,000 from the Circuit Clerk Commissioner's Fee Fund to the following line items in the Circuit Clerk's budget for 2015. Postage, $8,000. Public records, $12,000. Okay, that's a typo. The total appropriation should be $20,000.
Thank you, Attorney Zaga. Since we are on the second reading, and we'll go to a third reading only by a motion that would pass by, I believe, 10, I would move that we go to public comments.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and
That's what I meant.
take it to public comments.
Yes, sir. I'll second yours. We're in agreement.
Okay, they suspend the rules and let's go to public comments. What I want to do is roll call on that, Carly.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison? Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joel Maxwell?
Yes.
So we have suspended the rules and we will have public comments on this. So are we ready to go ahead and recognize for the...
Yes, unless Justice Cochran has something else.
I welcome the comments for the visitors, please.
Okay, now
Judge,
we
will you
need-
explain the rules of the game?
Will you explain the minutes and the guidelines, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, typically on ordinances, we have a 15-minute public comment period subject to extension by the court with 3 minutes per person making comment. And, yes, and that's the other point, alternating between support for the ordinance and opposition to it.
So what I'd like for you to do, raise your hand if you want to be recognized to come forth and speak. And then when you come to the well, you identify yourself. And you'll have 3 minutes. You'll have pros and cons. So if the first person would like to speak, please feel free to come forward. Are you speaking for the agenda? Yes.
I'm in support, ma'am.
And give me your name.
Yeah, my name is Mike Emery. Live on the west side of the city. I'm also a former staff member of the Washington County Animal Shelter. Just got a little brief thing. So once again, we're here discussing something that should have been settled weeks ago. I think by now all of you know full well how the citizens of Washington County feel about this subject and how they're disappointed in the actions that have already taken place. I want to take a quick moment to thank Judge Edwards for the statement she released this week, correcting some inaccurate information that was dispersed over the days since the last meeting of this body. The cost to the county for the funds transfer from the circuit clerk's budget would have been absolutely nothing. Instead, because of political division and other agendas, both known and unknown, the taxpayers have not only paid for the cost of special meetings, but have been subjected to undignified rhetoric. From the perspective here in the gallery, we have learned two very important things from all this. The first being that the citizens of Washington County do in fact support the shelter and want to see it funded and operating properly. Pardon me. Through material donations, financial donations, and support in person here at the court or on social media, this fact is quite clear. The second lesson is that this has highlighted political divisions and displayed exactly how they can hinder the forward progress of a community. Speaking only for my household, I can assure you that this lesson will not be forgotten. Again, I urge this body to approve this funding ordinance for the Washington County Animal Shelter. It's simply the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have anyone that would like to speak against this? Do we have anyone that would like to come forward and speak for this? Yes, please come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Joyce McGowan. I live in West Fork. I'm very disappointed in 4 members of this county in Quorum Court who I think are pursuing a personal agenda and not really taking the county's needs and services into consideration. As the wonderful editorial in the Northwest Arkansas edition of the Democrat Gazette last Saturday said, they're kicking the dog. They're putting animals' lives at risk for their own personal agenda. And I don't think the citizens of Washington County appreciate that. I think they expect you to run this county in an orderly manner without personal agendas. I spoke to two of the JPs after the last meeting. Both of them expressed to me that the reason they voted against the appropriation last time was because they didn't believe the circuit clerk was doing the right thing and moving funds out of his department. Even though the circuit clerk expressed that he had surplus funds, that it had happened in the past where he had given money to other departments from that fund, so there is a precedent for this. And I don't believe that the Quorum Court should second-guess an elected official who is doing a very good job of running his own department. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and identify yourself.
I'm Kathleen Lehman. I live in the city of Fayetteville. I'm for this ordinance, but as we saw, no one's really against it. And I don't have a whole lot to add. I spoke last time and just wanted to be seen again, that you're seeing the repeat people come back, because this is a very important issue to us. So again, we're here in support of it. The vote is up to you, and I would ask again that you support the funding that the shelter is asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, come forward. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Allison Annabelle Walker. I live in Fayetteville. I'm fairly new to this community within the last couple of years. I'm not used to speaking in front of a group like this. But anyway, I just heard about this a couple days ago, and I'm a registered nurse and have been in the healthcare industry for a long time. I also am a responsible owner of a dog that I rescued from a shelter that rescued the dog for me on my behalf. And I really want to see this shelter be supported, because dogs and cats, everybody that I know has a dog or a cat in their family, and they're really integral to their family health and happiness. A lot of people that I know have used dogs that have been rescued for service animals to help them, people who are disabled and need them. And I personally feel like this is really important for our community, because these animals are part of our community and our families. So I really urge you, and please respectfully ask you to please pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I brought a picture of my rescued dog. She's wonderful, she's gentle, she's sweet, and everybody loves her. So, we love these animals. We want them to be able to survive and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Darlene Graff, excuse me, and I live in Fayetteville. And I would just like to say that we just spent many minutes expounding over the minutes when it takes a few minutes to put a dog to sleep because we don't have the resources to shelter them. And so I am definitely in support of the funding, and I think it's very important for our community. I think that we need to avoid this, minimize having to put healthy animals to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm for. My name's Celine Waite, City of Fayetteville. Satinka is just one of the dogs that we pull from the shelter that we train for the disabled people. And if we didn't have the animals to pick from there, it would cost a lot more for the breeders, for the people of low income. So it's very important that we work with them and assess the dogs and choose and pick the dogs that end up being excellent workers. She's targeted to work for a woman that has AS and fibromyalgia, and she'll be a carting animal. So without the rescues saving her for us to use, I wouldn't be able to match her up with a partner. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, J.P. Madison.
I'd like to move to suspend the rules and advance this to third and final reading.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and advance this to the third and final reading. Let's do any other discussion?
And add by title only to read it.
Title only. Steve.
Well, you need to see if they're going to do it, Judge. You have to vote on the motion.
Okay. Okay, Carly, would you call the roll? What you're voting on is the motion to suspend the rules.
Did that need to be said and read by title only?
It was.
Okay, making sure. Joe Patterson? No. Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom?
No.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joel Maxwell?
It did not pass.
Okay. Yes, sir. J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. I want to thank all of you who have come here this evening. I want you to understand that 9 votes on a third reading will pass this ordinance. I appreciate you all coming. I appreciate your support of our shelter. I'm sorry it's taken so much time to get this through, but it is going to get through. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Judge.
J.P. Madison.
I also wanted to say that I'm sorry for how this process has played out, because I feel like, as I said here tonight, I have so much more information on this funding request that I simply did not have at the time that I first voted. And I know that Angela does a very good job. She just didn't come to us the first night with a lot of information. And I think we all learned a hard lesson over that we need to be ready to justify our funding request, or you're going to end up the fate of what happened with this process, and nobody wants to repeat that again. It's been a very hard process for this body, for the public, for animals, and I think we all need to do better with how we support our funding requests and how we handle them and how we handle our processes. I've certainly struggled over it, but like I said, I've got so much more information now about it that I didn't have. And I even was initially a little bit hesitant to think about moving the money from the circuit clerk's office, because I know you all think, oh, he has extra money, great. Well, he has extra money that could fund his office for next year. So technically it still is the county's money, but it's a good solution. It was a good compromise solution to get us out of the ditch on this issue, which is exactly where we were. So 9 votes. We're going to be out of the ditch, folks, and we'll get this taken care of.
J.P. Cochran.
Yes, Judge. Do we need to make a motion to have a special quorum court meeting at our next regularly scheduled committee meeting night so that we can handle this rather than waiting for the next? That would.
Second.
Judge, either you, as county judge, or 2 JPs could call that meeting.
Okay.
So we can call, let me get this started. I can call a special meeting the same night that we have the meeting on the 10th, on the 20th, the 10th.
Well, you already have a special quorum court meeting that night, but you could call one in conjunction with a regular committee meeting, if that's what you want to do.
Right.
I think it's the 10th of September, isn't it, Karen?
Special quorum court meeting for finance matters. County services is supposed to meet on the
31st.
31st.
Okay. The reason I bring this up, Judge, is the amount that we appropriated barely gave Angela and the shelter time to move. The sooner we move on this, the sooner they can resume normal operation and finish out the year.
Hang on just a minute. Karen, we have a meeting the 31st.
Yes, county services and public works meets on the 31st.
I think we'll call a special meeting just for that.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward with the meeting that we've got scheduled. We'll have 2 meetings on the same night, but we will have a special meeting, and that'll be first on the agenda
Okay, and that meeting will begin at 5:30
at 5:30.
on
So,
Monday,
folks,
August 31st.
we will have another meeting, special meeting for this. It will not cost the county additional money because they're having a meeting already. So I'll schedule it, piggyback it onto another one. I have to tell you folks how honored I am that you have been so dedicated and so willing to come forth when all of this is going on and being willing to speak out. I knew this, but you've just proved a more and more strong point with me, and I just want each and every one of you to know how much I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break so that if anyone wants to leave, that way they won't disrupt the meeting. Thank you, folks. Let's take a 5-minute break. Seats.
I'll talk to you. All right, bye.
We'll give a few more minutes. I think we got a few still.
The rest of those, I don't really want any more. I needed that. Yeah, some of those things. No, but I needed that set for somebody. I don't want anymore.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to go ahead and get started. We have a pretty lengthy agenda. The next thing we have is number 7. J.P. Cochran. Oh, didn't we? Okay, I'm sorry.
Please don't make us do it again.
I only have one thing on the county judge report tonight. I have just one item to mention under my report, and it has been brought to my attention by some of the JPs that other business agenda item has turned into topics that should have been placed on the agenda either before it was published or at a momentum added to the agenda when the agenda was adopted. It has become quite lengthy. It's been drug out. We think the meeting is almost over when we go into other business, and then we get into conversations and subjects that should have been placed on the agenda, and it drags on for another hour or more. Bringing up substantial issues under other businesses not only deprives adequate notification to the public that the Quorum Court will be discussing these items at the meeting, it is discourteous to the other members of the Quorum Court who need to know in advance when an item is going to be discussed so they can be properly prepared. I'm asking that you respect the intent of the other business for brief announcements or for rising issues for inclusion on a future agenda. I know other business has a purpose, but it is a purpose to try to do short things. It does not something that should go on all night. That's just something that I am putting out there for you to look at, and I think it would be very, very nice if you guys would consider doing this. I think it would be a compliment to the court and to everyone involved, along with the audience that takes all their time to come. So thank you for that. The next thing we have is number 9, committee reports. Let's go to County Services. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. The County Services Committee met on August 10th. I lost track of what month it was for a minute. We met after the special quorum court meeting concluded. The first item on our agenda was to replace our vice chair, given John Furman's resignation from the court, and J.P. Daniel Balls was elected our vice chair of our committee. Their next item was the pre-hazard mitigation plan that J.P. Lundstrom has proposed already and we have passed. We then heard our standard report from Juliet Ritchie, our planning director, who gave us an update on the things that are coming through with the planning board. And then Ms. Ritchie also gave us a report on the Washington County Flood Insurance Study update and the funding request that she is anticipating making from the court to pay for our portion for FEMA to do the second phase of the flood insurance study, which is of great benefit to the people of Washington County, because it gives you very good information on flooding potential and helps with insurance issues and things like that. We heard our quarterly report from Angela Ledgerwood, the director of the animal shelter. We've heard a lot about the animal shelter these days, but we got our routine report at the meeting. And then the next item on our agenda was the emergency ordinance that appears as item 15 on our agenda, so I'll skip over that since we're going to cover it. And then we had a discussion of our ongoing discussion about our quorum court organizational procedures that J.P. Bowman had brought to the committee, and I had been kind of taking the laboring oar on that all on my own and decided it was a bigger task than one person. And so the County Services Committee recommended forming an additional committee, an ordinance review committee that would not, we talked about it being ad hoc. Ultimately, we put it on as a standing committee, but just maybe it wouldn't meet with the regularity of our standing or other standing committees, and that it would begin an intensive review not all at once necessarily, but of our ordinances. And so that now is part of what appears on the agenda as item 15. And that concludes my report.
Okay, the next thing we have, Public Works didn't have a meeting. Personnel, J.P. Pond.
Yes, ma'am. We had our meeting Monday, August 3rd. We had the salary consultant, Blair Johansson, reported that this time of year they receive a file on employees' information that is uploaded into compensation software and allows him to create an average pay by employee that is based on the market. He is in the process of pulling information from other counties and cities so he can compare pay with how the county is paying. Toward the end of August, or at the first part of September, he will come before the court and report on that information. He referred to a handout regarding compensation for elected officials based on term in office. The document looks at the difference of salary horizons between private and public sectors. Mr. Johansson reported the county is doing what it is supposed to do in terms of pay. The county is at 85% of the maximum pay for elected officials. And then we had before us an ordinance creating a certificate incentive program for the Washington County Sheriff's Office and authorizing payments pursuant to that program. And I'm very pleased with this program. We need to do what we can to give incentive for our law enforcement people to get more training whenever they can. And I believe we'll have that ordinance before us this evening to put this in place. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. The next one we have is jail law enforcement, J.P. Lundstrom.
Yes, Judge, we met on Monday, August 10th also. We had a very good meeting. Juvenile Detention Director Jeannie Mack reported that they did an experimental 2-week program with 10 kids who were on intense probation. In order to keep the kids out of detention, they had to come to the JDC from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, where they learned how to sew, garden, canoe, and kayak, as well as getting certified in CPR.
I think it's great.
So I like the sounds of that program, and they intend to continue with it. We had the report from Chief Deputy Jay Cantrell, reported that civil papers were down but warrants are up in the Sheriff's Office. They've started a testing and evaluation program with the body-worn cameras, which I'm glad to see us doing that, of which they have 6. They're receiving good feedback. Adult Detention Major Randall Denzer reported that more people are coming to jail than before. And we got a check from the state for $330,000 for state prisoners. Sheriff Tim Helder came and talked on the cost and the budgetary problems with the jail, which was very informative. But he talked about how the initial tax was set at 0.5%, and then it went down to 1/4 cent. And it was only intended to fund the jail for a certain period of time. That period of time ran out, so we ended up having to supplement it out of the general fund. And there's really not much can be done about it. The biggest cost is personnel, and they haven't increased personnel from 8 to 10 years in their operation, which is exemplary, I believe. But they've been housing about 650 detainees, which is getting up awfully close to our maximum. So it was suggested by somebody in the Quorum Court that we raise taxes to support the jail. I don't know whether the people would vote for that or not. But I do believe, along with Sheriff Helder, that if you ask the people in Washington County, they would say that public safety is one of their main issues as far as services are concerned provided by the county. So we have to pay very strict attention to that and try to make it work. I personally don't have that much problem as long as the sales tax and everything is where it should be, property tax is where it should be. Supporting part of the jail out of the general fund, it's all tax money to start with. The key is the money there. So that's what we're going to have to watch. So thank you, Judge. That completes my report.
Judge Langford. The next thing we're moving on to is number 10. J.P. Pond?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Steve, would you read 10.1?
A resolution recognizing a vacancy in Quorum Court District Number 11 for 2015. Whereas Quorum Court District Number 11 is currently held by John Furman, and whereas pursuant to Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-14-1308, it is required that a vacancy be declared when a Quorum Court member resigns from said district, and whereas John Furman has served District 11 well and faithfully, but has notified the county judge that he must resign from the Quorum Court effective July 16, 2015. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that a vacancy is hereby declared to exist in Quorum Court District Number 11, and pursuant to Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-14-1310, the county judge shall notify the governor of such.
I'd like to say a little bit. I personally am going to miss John, and he'll be sorely missed by myself. It's been a real pleasure serving with John on the court. I'd move to pass 10.1.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? With no further comment, Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joel Maxwell?
Yes.
This resolution is adopted, but I would like to say, I think everyone around this horseshoe is going to miss John. We enjoyed working with him. He was very, very dedicated for a long time, and I know we all have our reasons, but I'm going to miss John a lot, and I just want him to know I thank him for all the time he served. Thank you. Next thing we have number 11, Butch.
Number 11.
No, we did 10.
This is a resolution expressing appreciation.
Oh, okay. Steve?
A resolution to express appreciation of the Quorum Court to John Furman for service as a Justice of the Peace. Whereas John Furman was elected in November 2008 as Justice of the Peace from District Number 7 of Washington County, which later changed to District Number 11, and was serving his fourth term as a member of the Washington County Quorum Court, and whereas John Furman will have served as a Justice of the Peace and member of the Washington Quorum Court, that's wrong, whereas John Furman, will, served as a Justice of the Peace and a member of the Washington County Quorum Court until July 16, 2015, and whereas John Furman has faithfully performed his duties as a Justice of the Peace and a member of the Washington County Quorum Court, now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, on behalf of the citizens of Washington County, Arkansas, the Quorum Court hereby commends John Furman for his dedicated service to Washington County and expresses its appreciation to him for a job well done. Article 2, the other Justices of the Peace of Washington County expressed their pleasure at having served with John Furman on the Quorum Court.
Move to pass.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, J.P. Cochran.
Judge, it's really a sad day when we lose someone of the caliber of John. I don't really know the circumstances why he left our court, but he always had a good ear and always made very sound decisions. John, if you're watching tonight, thank you for your years on the court. We do appreciate it.
Any public comment? With no comments, Carly, would you please call the roll?
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eki. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell.
Yes.
This resolution is adopted. We've already completed 12. We will go to 13. J.P. Pond.
An ordinance creating a certificate incentive program for the Washington County Sheriff's Office and authorizing payments pursuant to that program. Whereas the Sheriff and Quorum Court recognize having a professional law enforcement service is critically important to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas the Sheriff and the Quorum Court understand that formal education, training, and the certifications that result from that education and training maintain the professionalism of each individual law enforcement officer or deputy, and whereas it is the desire of the Quorum Court to incentivize Washington County Sheriff's deputies to obtain and maintain these professional certifications, now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas. Article 1. In the event that sufficient revenues in the judgment of the Washington County Sheriff in his or her budget, the Washington County Treasurer is authorized to make additional salary payments from such funds to those employees who have attained law enforcement certification above the basic certificate level as defined by the Arkansas Commission on Law Enforcement Standards and Training. Article 2. It is the intent of this ordinance that such payments be optional at the discretion of the sheriff and dependent on sufficient revenues. A1. Sheriff's deputies who are employed for at least 1 year with the Washington County Sheriff's Office and holding the following certificates on July 1st of each year shall be eligible for all or a portion of additional salary payments as scheduled as follows. A, general certificate or instructor certificate, $300 annually. B, intermediate certificate, $300 annually. Advanced certificate, $300 annually. Senior certificate, $300 annually. And field training officer or detention training officer certificate, $300 annually. 2, payment of these funds shall be made during the eligible employee's first pay period in the month of December, depending on the availability of revenues, and shall be restricted to the following classifications. Sheriff, provided that no payment under this ordinance shall increase the sheriff's compensation beyond the statutory maximum. B, chief deputy sheriff. C, major. D, captain. E, lieutenant. F, sergeant. G, corporal. H, deputy first class. I, fire marshal. And J, assistant fire marshal. B, the maximum allowable annual aggregate payment pursuant to this ordinance to any one employee shall be $1,200. C, payments made under this section shall be considered part of the employee's regular income and subject to all applicable withholding required by law.
Move to pass.
I have a motion and a second. Now, this is on the first reading, and so this will need to be placed on 3 readings.
Move to suspend the rules and read the second time by title only.
Yes, J.P. Madison.
Madam Judge, would you get Attorney Zaga to look at the first sentence in Article 1 and tell me if a word is missing?
I think Justice Madison, I think it should say, in the event sufficient revenues exist.
Thank you. Can we, is it appropriate to amend it to add that?
It is.
I move to amend Article 1 to say revenues exist.
We have a motion to amend 13.1. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye to make the
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the amendment has been completed.
Now that puts it back on first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and read 13.1 by title only.
Second. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
An ordinance creating a certificate incentive program for the Washington County Sheriff's Office and authorizing payments pursuant to that program.
Move to suspend the rules and read a second time by title only.
Second. Have a motion and a second.
And we got to vote on that.
Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
An ordinance creating a certificate incentive program for the Washington County Sheriff's Office and authorizing payments pursuant to that program.
Move to suspend the rules and read the third time by title only.
Okay, now, do we need to have public comments before we vote?
You do, Judge, but not on this motion.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
An ordinance creating a certificate incentive program for the Washington County Sheriff's Office and authorizing payments pursuant to that program.
Okay, now I can say move to pass, and then you can have public comment if so.
I have a motion and a second to pass 13.1. Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Judge. I don't mean to sound ignorant or whatever, but it says all, or on A1, it says all or a portion of, and then A, B, C, D, and E comes out to $1,500, and then it says any one employee shall be $1,200. Is that, please explain, somebody. Please
May I
explain.
engage in a colloquy with
please.
Justice Lloyd?
Yes.
The intent was to say all or a portion was that the sheriff could restrict it if the funds didn't exist. So in his judgment, he might not pay all of those certificates, but even if you possessed all 5 or I think 6, you would still only get $1,200.
Okay. So the all there, doesn't mean you can get all of them? I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
You'd still be capped at $1,200,
Still
even
be
if you
capped.
possessed all those certificates.
Okay, thank you.
If there's plenty of money, you could be all.
Any discussion? Any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Carla, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran. Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joel Maxwell.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted. Number 14, J.P. Harbison.
Courtney, my
She's still here.
Are you still here? Do you want to explain this? Okay.
Turn your microphone on.
Thank you, Ann. As you know, our zoning ordinance was written so that it is a legislative action. So therefore, our legislative body has to ratify any actions done by the planning board for zoning. This is a conditional use permit called the DeVore Homes CUP. And what they wanted to do was split a 4-acre lot into 2 lots. And one of the lots was slightly less than an acre. And this was to allow for their neighbor to purchase a small portion of the property, and they were able to fit their entire septic system, all the required setbacks, and then they were able to maintain their yard. And so the planning board felt that this was an appropriate conditional use permit as the total acreage and total density was still within the range. It was just one lot was less than 1 acre. It was 0.8 acres. So we would ask that you ratify the planning board's decision to approve this CUP. If you have any questions, I can go into more detail.
Okay. Mr. Sager, would you read 14.1, please?
An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Whereas the Planning and Zoning Board granted a conditional use permit on July 30th for DeVore Homes, and whereas immediate ratification is necessary by the Quorum Court to prevent undue delay and expense to the applicant, and whereas ratification will not affect any appeal rights any person may have. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that the conditional use permit for DeVore Homes granted by the Planning and Zoning Board is hereby ratified. Article 2, Emergency Clause. It is hereby determined that it is in the public's best interest for this ordinance to be effective immediately, and the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens are affected by such for the reasons as set out above. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Okay, on this ordinance, this is in a very rural area of Washington County. It's basically the road that goes over the top of the tunnel, Bobby Hopper Tunnel on I-49, and I move that we pass 14.1.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Do I have any public comment? Carly, would you please call the roll?
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery. Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Courtney. The next thing we have is number 15. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Steve, would you please read, or Mr. Zaga, I'm sorry, would you please read 15.1?
An emergency ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 22 of the Washington County Code. Whereas the Washington County Quorum Court has the power and authority pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated Section 14-14-801 to organize itself into committees, and whereas Washington County Code Section 2-22B, as adopted in 2013, provided that the Finance and Budget Committee was to be a committee of the whole, and whereas the Quorum Court voted on July 16, 2015, to dissolve the Finance and Budget Committee, and whereas the Quorum Court has decided to form an Ordinance Review Committee, and whereas the Quorum Court's decisions to dissolve the Finance and Budget Committee and to form an Ordinance Review Committee make it necessary to amend Washington County Code Section 2-22, and whereas in order for the Quorum Court to continue with an orderly, efficient, and effective course of conducting the county's business, it is necessary that this ordinance become effective immediately upon its passage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas. Article 1, Washington County Code, Section 2-22 is hereby amended to read as follows. The following committees of the Quorum Court are hereby established. A, the following committees of the Quorum Court are hereby established. 1, County Services. 2, Jail, Law Enforcement, Courts. 3, Personnel. 4, Public Works. And 5, Ordinance Review. Ordinance Review should be underlined in your copy. B, each committee shall provide for its own organization and management of its affairs, including the election of its own chair and vice chair. Article 2, the actions of the respective committees of the Quorum Court as they met and convened from January 2nd, 2015 through August 20th, 2015 are hereby ratified and confirmed in their entirety, provided, however, that nothing in this article shall be construed to mean that an action of a committee that was not approved by the full Quorum Court shall have the force of law. Article 3, Emergency Clause. It is hereby determined that it is the public's best interest for this ordinance to be effective immediately, and the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens are affected by such for the reasons as set out above. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Thank you, Mr. Zaga. This is the ordinance just confirming what we did by motion as a result, I think, of J.P. Cochran and maybe J.P. Bowman's efforts. It was our attorney's recommendation that we amend our ordinances, so it came through county services, and then it was at that same meeting that we decided to add an ordinance review committee. So effectively, this just takes away the Finance and Budget Committee, adds an ordinance review committee, and it was decided that we ought to do it by an emergency clause since that's really the way we've been functioning. So I think that will take a supermajority vote to pass. So I move to pass 15.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Harbison.
This ordinance basically just confirms how we're conducting business at this time. Is that correct?
Judge, may I engage
please.
Justice Harbison? Yes, ma'am, that's correct. With the
Addition of the...
Well, yeah, exactly. With the addition of the county review, the ordinance review committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Carly, would you call the roll?
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Daniel Balls.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Rick Cochran.
No.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Maxwell.
This ordinance is adopted. Next thing I have is 16.1. J.P. Cochran. I'm sorry. Do what?
You're on regular 16, Judge.
Okay. J.P. Cochran. 16.1.
We did it, Judge.
Okay, that's done. Okay.
Just a regular business.
Do we have, huh? Yeah. Do we have any other business to come before this court?
Judge, I have Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. When is, just because I'm new on this, when is the last time to request an item on the agenda so that we make sure that it doesn't, with the, when's the last, I mean, is there a...
deadline, Karen?
Yes, we have to send it out the Friday before the Quorum Court meeting. So
Okay.
a week ahead of time, at
Week.
least. Yeah, because,
Okay.
about 10 days. That way we can get it on the agenda and...
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. J.P. Madison.
So sometimes sitting next to your mother does have an influence on you. And I read Robert's rules about the minutes. Since I did not vote, I'm entitled to make a motion to reconsider, and I really think we need to clean up this issue with the minutes. So I make the motion that we reconsider the motion to approve the minutes so that we can then vote on the motion I think is originally intended, or decide whether we want to table it.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Okay, Eva, please state again what we're voting on.
Right now, I think we're just voting on whether we're willing to reconsider it. It had to be made by a proper person, and it couldn't be J.P. Madison. So, but I read Robert's rules while we were here tonight, and as someone who did not vote on it because I abstained, I was eligible to make the motion to reconsider, which must be made at the same meeting. So that all we're voting on is whether we're willing to reconsider the issue. I think effectively that would allow us to vote on J.P. Harbison's motion as she intended it, or table, whatever we want to decide.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Then I think we're ready to go ahead and call for the vote on this. Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
No.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
I did it for you.
Some people are hard to help.
Gee.
So now we are ready to go back and vote on the, clean up the minutes. Is that correct?
Well, Judge,
Move to table.
there may be a competing motion that comes forward.
I move to table the minutes until we can see them in their corrected form.
Second.
A motion and a second to table the minutes until they can come back corrected.
Yes.
Any discussion? Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Judge, for letting me make a comment. Since they were so very lengthy, I'm going to jump to the conclusion that many people here didn't read them. But I did. And I think it would reflect poorly to leave them as they were. And I'd like the comfort of knowing that they are improved for the better, which is why I ask you to please let us table this until they can correct them. Thank you.
Let's do a roll call. Carly?
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
No.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
No.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison?
No.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
That has adopted. So we will redo the minutes and get them back to you in its corrected form. So, do we have any citizens' comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I think we
Yes, you come forward. Without calisthenics.
We really need him to identify himself.
I want him to identify himself for record.
Ann, can you come turn this on for me? Thank you all, first of all, for creating that ability for us to incentivize our folks to become better educated to do the jobs they do. I was telling Tom before the meeting started, and I'll share with all of you, that today is the one-year anniversary that we celebrate Corporal Reed surviving a gunshot wound last summer. So it's kind of a timely issue that this came about, and I just wanted to let you know that and thank you again. So that's it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
We have another comment, Judge.
I'm sorry.
You have more public comment.
Oh, okay. Come forward and identify yourself.
We don't throw rocks.
I won't throw rocks tonight.
Hello, my name is Joe Esian. I'm of Tawny County, Arkansas. I'm an alderman, and I'm here to share what my feelings are about a letter that was sent by your county attorney. Okay, let me get started first, how I got involved with your county attorney. We have what they call a volunteer fire department that we've had under contract. And we were trying to get to the bottom on some of the auditing items, the financial statements, what they're saying, according to the contract, okay? And we were sending them FOIs. I was sending them certified letter, $6, $7 to send it to them. And it wasn't getting answered. And it was suggested to me to give it to the county attorney and see what he can do with it. So I gave it to him, and he started getting them to answer them. We're not talking days, we're talking weeks. And had other people send their FOIs because we would coordinate our efforts to get to the bottom of things. And they weren't getting answered either. So I was forwarding all their information to them. That's how we got started. Now my goal is to make sure anything we're doing, whether it's city or anyone we're contracting with, that they're accountable. I think you all would like to have accountability. I'll give you an example. I sent the county attorney an ISO report done by our chief. Now I think all of you, if you see a fire hydrant in front of your home, feel like it should produce a lot of water, correct? Our chief sent a report to the mayor in January showing that the report that the volunteer department had done before was showing everything, all those hydrants producing 800 to 1,000 gallons per minute. But when they did their investigation, go back through these hydrants, they found something that were only producing 50 gallons a minute. Valves turned off. Think about that's your home. So he sent to the mayor, they were trying to understand why they had valves shut off. Now you can imagine if you take a piece of fire equipment and it says rated 1,000 gallons per minute and you hook it up to that tank and it's only producing 50, I think you got a problem. You could damage equipment. Houses don't get put out, or businesses. We got some businesses there that have, well, I'll give you one, one business was really concerned, and that's Gates. You've probably heard Gates belts and stuff like that. They have a 50,000 square foot building. And one of the hydrants weren't producing what they said they were. Now, if that building catches on fire with rubber hoses, you name it, you got an issue. So these ratings are real important on what they put on these hydrants.
Joe, let me have your attention for just a moment.
Okay.
We normally have comments for 3 minutes.
Okay, I got you. But I'm just trying to give you.
But like I say, I'm going to give you 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to have to call.
That's fine.
So if you'll go ahead and speak.
Okay. Well, our goal is about accountability. And this is information that I was giving your county attorney. And on our contract is one of the things that said that basically the area fire department will do everything it can to enforce this agreement as far as accountability. So I was giving a lot of stuff to him, a lot of different financials. We had 3 different sets of financials. And I thought he would be fine with that. But he came to our council meeting and said, basically, let's if I was going to look at a 501c, well, I've talked to those. If there's money involved, yes, they can. But it's got to be probable cause for them to have to go in. I really don't care if he sends a letter that says my only goal is to create trouble for him. You know, it made people think I just had an issue. But I'll remind everybody that I've got an agenda March 6th saying I wanted unification with this group. We could work together. But I still say it's accountability. And we're going to have accountability in ISO ratings, which I'll be addressing with our community. I just don't appreciate a an attorney send out a letter that gets produced and got emailed to our community. Same only goal is, I have a hate, is to create a lot of trouble for these people. My goal is to make them accountable. And that's what we're doing today. No, I will not communicate with the
Joe,
county
I'm
attorney on
going
anything.
to have to call your time. Your
Thank you.
time is up, but I thank you very much.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Have a second.
Yes, second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.